Children get a lot of satisfaction from getting achievement points at school. And in this module, what I'm going to do is show you how you can build a solution that will enable you to track achievements for the children in your school, and also to send emails to the parents to tell them that their child has achieved something special. So to that end, we are going to use the Common Data Service for Teams, or Oakdale for Teams, formerly known as DataFlex, and we're going to do that and see how far we can go to making a cool product. So just to give you an overview of the module, I'm going to show you what we're going to build. So effectively, I'll go all the way through the building process and then I'll show you the final product. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to a lesson where we talk about the data model that is necessary to support what we're trying to do. We're then going to build the entities that we need. Entities are just tables of data. We're going to build the entities using Teams. We're then going to separately, because that's our current way of doing this, add image fields into one of the entities. There's a little trick for that. Then we're going to go on to a little bit more detail on app building mechanics, and we're going to build a gallery, essentially a list from scratch. And we're also going to build a form from scratch as well. Now, out of the box, you will get a form and a gallery, but it is nice to know how to do these things yourself. I'm then going to show you how to do a gallery and a form shortcut. So out of the box, you'll get a gallery and a form, and actually you can just do a straight copy paste, but it'll always look at the original entity. So I'm going to show you the tricks that you need to perform to make those work. And then we're going to really move things forward so that when that achievement has been raised, an email will go out to the parent or guardian to say that their child's achieved something special that day. Finally, I'm going to show you how to publish the app. And in fact, we'll have done that before the email stage. And once we've done that, we're just going to do a review of the solution. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just switch over and take a look at the final solution. So we're now in our team, and if we move to the feedback app tab, then our app will start to fire up. Now we can make it a bit bigger. We can go like this. We can do lots of things. In fact, we can even pop it out. And I'm going to show you a couple more things. If you add and hide navbar equals true, then we'll lose the purple bit. And if I just go and click F11, I'm going to go full screen. If I click F5 now, it's going to go full screen. So this is a Teams app. But I think that what I'll do is I'll still just show you that we can actually see this app just in its native form. This is how most people are going to see it. So what I can do is I can click on Add Student, and I can add new students in. I can click a new record, type in the name, I can add a picture and then pop that person's picture in, and then that will create me a new record. Then I can move back off there, and then I can also influence the categories we've got here. So I can pop a category in, I can make this a new category of over and above expectation, and I can maybe say that's worth 4 points, click submit. And then if I then wanted to go into record achievements, that would then become available to me. I could hit the plus icon here, pop the event date, I can pop the student's name in, and if I go Novak Djokovic and I go and put in over and above expectation, I can do testing demo and then click submit. Then what we'll see is that Sunday 4th of October should appear in between Roger Federer handwriting and participation. So I'll click testing demo. In fact, So you can see that this this entry has gone in there. We can see that that's gone through. We've also got the ability to send an email. And when we do this, it will compose an email for us. And if we click the send button, it will actually send an email through to us, or rather it will send an email through to the carer of that child, and it will send it from our email address as well, and we can actually make changes to the email as well. So this is quite it's, considering it takes, it took maybe about, it's about 2 hours of work to put this together. It's just not bad. And I can see lots and lots of possibilities as to using the Power Apps Teams integration for solutions that will work in lots of organizations. I think the way in which it brings in images is absolutely fantastic, and the data limitations really aren't that significant. You've got 1 million rows to play with. That for most organizations and most teams will be plenty of rows to be successful with what they're trying to do. So that's the demo. Let's now move over and start building out this solution from scratch. Let's move on to the next lesson. Hi everyone, good luck with this course. I wanted to show you there's actually another way of you consuming it, and that's by signing on for the course in a different way. I'm just going to go through that process with you here. So you need to go to powerplatformlearn.com. Once you're on powerplatformlearn.com, then what you'll see is there are various menus. Just need to get the courses menu, and then you can go to the Power Apps CDS Oakdale for Teams, and then you can sign up on the course. And what that does is it actually splits the course up into its constituent parts. So it just means that you can finish bits and then come back to it, or you can just look at one specific part. So that's just another way of you consuming it. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this content. You're going to watch it all the way through from here on in. Good luck. So what I'm going to do now is describe the data model we need to support what we're going to do. So the first thing is we are going to need a kind of central fact table, and that's going to contain the achievements. And I'm going to call it feedback because maybe as well as achievements, maybe if they've done something naughty, that's another thing that they can be informed of. So we're going to have a feedback entity. Now inside the feedback entity there will be relationships with, I'm going to call it a people entity. Now it's possible that we could extend this to go beyond just the children, and so this could potentially have the teachers, and it could even have the parents if we really wanted it to. So I'm just going to make sure I've got that. Now what I want to do is I want to say that there is going to be a relationship between the feedback and the people, because there is only ever going to be one instance of a person, a child within the people table, but that child can have more than one element of feedback. Now, as well as that, I'm also thinking that we might want different categories associated with the feedback. So we could go into the lessons and so on, but I'm going to kind of keep it reasonably simple. But I'm going to say, well, actually, I need something like categories. So it could be to do with an achievement. I'm not quite sure where I'm heading with this, but I think that I would rather have that than have one of these choice fields at this stage. So I'm going to say, well, what's the category? And there could be like things like maybe achiever of the lesson, or help the teacher. I don't know. So I'm just going to do a little link there, and we will only ever have one instance of the category and that table, and we can obviously use that category multiple times. So that's that's pretty well where I'm going to head with this for the moment. So we've seen the data model, and in the next lesson we will use teams in order to start to build out the entities that we need. So we know that we need 3 entities to make this solution work. We need a people entity, we need a feedback entity, we also need a category entity. So let's move over to teams in order to get those working. Here I am in office.com. All I need to do is click on Teams. That will take me into Teams. If I don't already have a team, I can join or create a team this way. Click on Create a Team, and then I can build a team from scratch. That would be typically the way in which you would do this. I'm going to assume that we've all got a team that we're involved in already. At this point, you would actually hit the 3 dots and then type in Power Apps. Now, if you don't already have the icon that is showing on the left hand side, so what you have to do is click on there, and then what you need to do is you need to make sure that you actually pin this. At the moment I've got an option of unpinning it, and the problem with that is that you can't then go and find it again. So I'm going to click on there and I'm going to make sure I pin this here. So now that I'm in this space, I can then click on Create an App, because this is the best way of getting the ability to create a special database. So I click on Create an App, and then it's going to say, well, hey, which team do you want to add it to? And at that point, you then go and you choose whichever team you want to add it to. Now, if this team doesn't already have something set up for it, then it will have to provision a database for you. It takes about 10 minutes, but I'm going to just click on one where the database has already been provisioned. So I'm going to go onto this Learn database here, and I'm going to click Create. Now it's then going to take me off to the build part of Power Apps for Teams, and it's going to just spin around and get things ready. Now at this point you get a kind of a standard screen. Now it is a slightly odd feeling. We'll see later on how we can change this around. But the very first thing that I'll do is I'll just give you a little bit of a walk around here. I can show you that we're actually different things on this screen. We can click on them. There are these funny containers, and they've got little names for the buttons and so on. We're actually going to do one of these, and we're just going to destroy everything on the page anyway. But to start with, we will borrow the functionality that we've been given, and what we're actually going to do is we will go to this Add Data element here. This is the part that allows us to create new entities. So you can see here that there are some tables here already. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new table. Now I think what I'm going to do first is create a person table. So I think I said it was people. I'll call it people. Right, and I will then click Create on that, and then what it's going to do, it's going to bounce me onto a screen which allows me to add the name and various other fields that we can add in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say, well, I'm going to do edit column, and I'm going to say that this is the full name, and there is a reason for me doing this. It does get a bit confusing sometimes. This is the primary column for this, and so I'm going to say, well, this is the full name, and I'm going to click Save on that. But I am actually going to do a first name and a last name as well. Not amazing from a database perspective, but I'm going to do it anyway. First name, text, and then I'll do a last name as well. And this is effectively going to be the, whether or not it's a child or not. Now, what I am actually going to do on this, I'm just going to have a little play around with this and notice there are different things that we can do. Now, one of the things that we can do is we can have a choice field, because really there can only be one of 3 things. They can either be a student, they can be a teacher, and they can be a parent, and I guess they could probably be an assistant of some kind, school assistant, because anyone can give these things away. assistant there, and notice here you can change the colors if you want to. Not a huge amount of choice in colors wise, but I'm gonna not worry too much about that. And then that's us done. In fact, cancel that. I need to give it a field name, and I'm gonna say type on there. I'll say person type. I know it's obvious, but well, I'm going to do it anyway. So it's the person type. So I'm going to say it's now going to create the field for us, and so we'll do the person type. The person will be. Let me think of someone famous. We can have Roger Federer, and he can be. So we've got Roger Federer, and he can be one of our students. And so we select the option, and he's going to be a student. Whereas I don't know, we'll have we can have Pete Sampras. Pete Sampras, and I'll say Pete. And I'll do Sampras as well. Sampras, and he can be a teacher. I may not end up using this straight away, so we'll see how this with this one shakes out, and that's created our very first entity that we needed to create. Now later on we will add in an image field in here. It's not actually that difficult at all, so that it'll just sort of fill it out a little bit. And once I click X on that, what it's going to do, it's going to make a big change to this whole area here, and it's going to associate this gallery that we're looking at here with people. And it'll also associate this table here, this form with people as well. So there's lots of things that are happening in the background. Now, what I can do is there's a funny label here, and you need to always send it to the back, because otherwise it gets in the way of things. So we've got this. We can add new records if we want to, and in fact we'll just sort of demonstrate just adding a new record. We can go preview, new record, and this could be Ivan, and it'll be Ivan Lendl, and make the last name Lendl, and the person type, well, he can also be a teacher because he's been around for ages, and I'm going to click OK on that, and we can start fiddling around with this if we want to. So we can change this where it's this time created on, and we've got the person type we could add in there as well, and that would be kind of nice to include that, and maybe we'd also change the fill property to make the color change as well. Lots of fiddling around that we could do at this point. I'm not going to entertain that one too much, because we've got other fields that we've got other entities that we need to create. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to now move on and go on to add data again. And this is going to be our feedback entity. So I'm going to go create a new table, and then I'm going to say feedback. And notice that we've got advanced settings, and this is the plural of feedback. I think if plural of feedback would probably just still be feedback. So I'm now going to click create on that, and it'll take us to the same screen that we saw before. So the name, yes, okay, well, we can have a name for the feedback, but I think I'm just going to have I'm going to edit the column, and I'm going to say comment. Maybe that's an okay way of doing this. I'm going to click save on that. Then I'm actually going to do a lookup column, and that was why I created the person. So it's going to say, well, hey, which one do you want to look it up in? And I created this people thing, and I'm now going to call this the. I'm going to say, well, actually, this is definitely student feedback. So I'm going to say, well, actually, it's the student here, student, and I'm going to click create on that. And what that will allow us to do is to pick a student. Now, what you will notice is that we do get to actually we do get to choose from the teachers as well, and the assistants and so on. But typically you wouldn't actually be entering the data here. You would actually be entering it via your app, and we can control these behaviors inside the app. I'm just going to say great work, and I'm actually going to sort of maybe change my mind about it could be the subject, maybe would be something that we could use. So great work, and then I'm going to click on this, and I can choose between it can only be Roger because he's my only student, strictly speaking, and so that's great work, and it's going to remember the date that the work took place. So notice that I've got created on and so on, but you know what? Maybe it's the following day that you started to do it. So I'm going to call it date of record. No, I'll call it date feedback. I'll maybe even do called date event. Right, so what I can now do is I can then go and click on date, and then I can then click create. So that means I've now got a date on which that thing took place. I can then double click on that, and it'll give me the option to choose the date. Now notice that'll be in a US format at this point in time. We can change the behaviors in the app more easily than we can change it here. So that's useful to us. Now I'm just going to come out of this, and what I think we'll find on this is that we'll come out of this, everything's happy, but nothing happens in the app, and that's kind of clearly it's not perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry too much about it at this point in time. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of plow on ahead and just say, well, actually, what's the category? So I'm going to create a new table on this. And what's the table going to be? Well, the table, let's call it feedback category. Just because we could have categories for all sorts of things. So I'm going to click create on that. It's going to do us a new table, and what I'm now going to do is I'm going to say, what's the name of it? Well, I can say participation. I could maybe do handwriting. There could be all sorts of different things that they could be, and maybe there's some kind of points that you get for each one. So we'll have points here, and then what we'll do on that is we'll actually have a number that you get for that, and do. It could be that actually people say how many points they get for it. It just shows you there's lots of different options. So maybe handwriting is worth 1 point, and participation is worth say 3 points, and maybe helping teacher. And maybe let's make that as 3 points as well. And we can go on and on in terms of the different things that we can do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hit the X on that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the feedback. And what I want to do is I want to add those feedback categories into my feedback. Now, I'm just going to click on the data source itself. Now, it is a little bit tricky to get back to this data source. And what I am going to make sure that I do is I'm going to save this. And it's saying save into Power Apps already. Now, it's got a really rubbish name at the moment. Let's call it Feedback App. And I'm going to click save on that. Now it's got actually a name that's kind of reasonable, and I'm going to click on build again. I'm pretty sure that's going to take us to the right place. Now I'm actually going to click on all onto the learn piece, because that's where we did the feedback app, and you can see the different tables that are inside there. So just note that if you actually click on see all, you actually get to see more things that are in this space here. So we can see different things like apps and chatbots and flows and tables and so on. So if I click on tables, you can see the 3 tables that we've got. Let's hit the drop down so you can see columns and so on. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the feedback and I want to edit that. And I want to add another field, and the field will be something that is related to, I can add the relationships in here. In fact, I need to go onto the visual editor. I don't have to, there are other ways of doing it, but I'm going to click on the plus, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a lookup column, and it's going to be the category. I'm just going to type in category. Then I'm going to go onto the related table, and it's called feedback category, and then I can click create. Now I'm pretty sure that Roger did amazing handwriting that day, which means I can double click on that and I can type in handwriting there, and that's going to look okay. And you know, maybe that's okay for us at the moment, but we can start to see it's starting to build up as an app. Or rather, we certainly have the data structure that's going to enable us to be able to build an app. And in the next lesson, we're just going to enhance it a little bit further, and we're going to bring in an image field into our data model next to our people. So I'll see you in the next lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to add a simple image field into the people entity. It's a slightly more tricky process that we need to go through, but it's so valuable to be able to put images into our apps that I want you to see this in operation. So let's move across to Teams in order to see that working. So this is where we left off in the last lesson. I'm going to click out of here, and now what I'm going to do is remember that we were in the build part here. We clicked on the correct team, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the people entity that we've created, and what we're going to do is we are going to add an extra column in here. Now we won't be able to add that column using the visual editor, and I'll show you that working now. If I hit the plus and I then hit the drop down as to the different types that we've got, you'll notice that we don't actually have the option of an image field, but in fact it does exist. So what we're going to do is we're going to go add column here, and what you'll see is that we get many more field types available to us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this image field here, and I'm going to say what the display name is, and I'm just going to call it image. I think that's enough. I might just change the name a little bit so it's a bit more obvious in the formulas when we're working with them. I think it's okay. Because I think what we might end up with is something like image.image. So let's just call it picture instead, because I don't think that will show up to the same extent. I will make it the primary image, but it'll be the only image as well. And then I'm going to click done on that. And what I now need to now do is I have to click Save Table, because notice that it's in bold down here. And now when it's in bold, it means you can go into it, you can still keep changing it. I don't want to do that. I want to just save the table as it is at the moment. And I'll see if I can actually go onto the visual editor. In fact, you can actually see that you've got a picture option. I'm going to double click on this, but actually you don't actually have the ability to edit the picture in here, but you will get the ability to edit it when we do the app. So now what I'm going to do is going to click the X there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the apps, and then I'm going to come to my feedback app, hit the 3 dots here, and I'm going to edit that app. So now it's going to fire up the app in the editing experience, and what we're going to do is we're going to add our picture stroke image field, and get that one working so that we can actually add an image of Roger Federer into this. So notice here that we're on the app, and in that field doesn't exist yet. We've got to tell it to be added. So I'm going to go on to edit fields. I'm going to get add field, and then notice I've got a number of options around picture. I'm going to click the second one here and then click add on that, and that's added that one in. I'll click the X there, and notice I've got a picture option here. I'm going to go on to the preview. In fact, it doesn't have a picture because we know it doesn't have a picture, but now that I've hit the edit, I've got an option to click to add a picture. So in order to get the picture on Power Platform Learn here, I've done some resources. So you need to go to github.com/Power Platform Learn. Then what you need to do is click into the resources and then onto Teams. And then you've got the Roger Federer picture. You can click on the picture and then you can click download on the picture. Now what I'm going to do as far as my involvement is concerned is I've already got the picture, so I can now click to add the picture, and what I can do is I can head over to the folder that contains that. I can go to resources and then Teams and then click on Roger Federer and then click on it, and now that has added that in. So I can click OK on that. And the big sell of this is now we've got that picture, Roger Federer. Notice that the picture that we have here is actually a thumbnail of dear Roger, and if we don't want it to be that thumbnail, then what we need to do is we need to go to the image 2 and we need to go to advanced and then unlock to change the properties, and then it would be instead of being parent.default, it would be picture this item.picture and it should be full, because full gives you the full version of the image. And by contrast, if we kind of click over to here, we're in this image 1 thing here. What we can do is we can go this item and we can say dot picture. And what that will by default do is it will give us a thumbnail, a much thinner image than we had before. So that's I mean, for me, this ability to add images in is a huge benefit. And what we'll see is that when we actually start to create the feedback, we'll be able to see those images coming up over and over again. Thanks for watching this lesson on adding images into your team's apps. In this lesson, we are going to carry on creating our Achievements for Schools app. And what we're going to do is we are going to build a simple title screen. So let's move over to Power Apps to do that. Now here we are on the app. In fact, what I'll do now is I'm just going to go back and I'm going to go to just go to home and just say, hey, you know, if we were on this app, we needed to go back and build it. What we would do is we would go to build, and then what we would do is we need to make sure that we're actually on this learn particular one. You need to be in the correct team, and then once you're in the correct team, then you need to go on to the correct app. Now I'm going to click on, I'll go to see all on this because I wanted to make sure that I could hit the 3 dots and then click edit, because I wanted to edit the app. So here we are, we're going to fire up the app. It's actually at this point in time, it is just a single screen app. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a title page for our app. It is going to be pretty straightforward. And what I've done is I have created some resources that we can work with. So here we are. And if I go across here to this area, what we'll see is if I actually click on the hamburger, I get the option for the tree view, and the tree view tells me what is in my app. So what that means is now it's a little bit easier to see what's happening. I'm just going to change the zoom down at the bottom here. so that I can see things a bit better. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a new screen. In fact, all I'm going to do is just click new screen. New screen, I can do a blank screen. There are different types of screens that we can do, but what I'm going to do is just going to create a blank screen. Now notice the screen comes at the bottom. Now the screen that first launches within your app is the screen that is the one that is at the top. So I'm going to hit the 3 dots here and I'm going to move it up. That's now done that. And I'm just going to go and rename it, and I'm going to call it, I normally do SCR at the start and then do SCR home. That's how I would normally do this. And then maybe on this one here, that would make it SCR people, just because it's actually about the people in this case. Now, as you can see, SCR home has nothing inside it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some resources that I've put together just to create a really simple, a really basic landing page for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto this resources area. So if you actually go to github.com Power Platform Learn, and I'm just going to do that now. Then what you'll do is you'll see lots of resources. You go to the resources part, then you can click on Teams, and then you can see there are a number of things that you can look at. So what you've got is, one of the things is there's a teacher classroom, and it's just an image of a teacher with some students. We've also got the logo for the Power Platform Learn, so I'm going to make use of that, and that'll be it's as if it's my school logo. And then what I'm also going to do is I'll just pop on the screen here. This is the sort of thing I would quite often do. So I would go and I would do insert, and I'm on PowerPoint here, so new slide, and I can go blank, then I can go to pictures, then I can go to stock images, and then I can go to something like backgrounds. Now I won't put this one in here, but say for example I wanted some fairly bland background, what I might choose to do is put something like this in here, and I can insert this into my app. But the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to right click, save as picture. In fact, I will pop it in here, and I'm just going to call this app background, and you'll be able to see that when you get there. And I'll click save on that. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to bring those things into the app. So what I need to do on that is I need to go onto Power Apps here, and I am going to now navigate to go to insert, and if I can type in image, it is image, and I can drag it onto the screen. There's the first thing I'm going to do. Then it's going to say, well, what image do you actually want? So on the right hand side here, you can see there's an option as to which image that is. And this is kind of the best and easiest way of putting an image in. I can do add an image file, and now I can see the different things that are available to me. So I'm going to say, well, hey, I'm just going to stick the app. But in fact, I'll do a slightly different thing for the app background. I'm going to do this teacher classroom thing and pop that one in there. That's going to be my teacher, and I'm going to expand that out. It's an okay image. I think for some reason it's not actually the best image that I've ever seen. I suspect that the quality of the image isn't amazing, so I'm just going to sort of pop that one down a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the screen itself, and then I go back onto this tree view, and then I'm going to see this drop down here. In fact, you can see you've got an option for background image here. So that means I can do that in a number of ways, but this is a nice place to put it because I can now add an image file. Then I can go to the app background. Then I can click open on that, and then it's going to put it into there. Now, what you'll notice is it doesn't fill the screen correctly. So you can see that there's elements here and here that are white. And so what I can do is, instead of making it fit, I can make it fill it. And then now that's going to make it fill the entire screen, and I can just carry on doing that, but I can add another image in, and I might as well just carry on with this, pop that in there, and I can add another image in. So what I'll do is I will go to insert and I will type in image, and I will drag it onto the screen, because this time I'm going to bring that logo in that we were looking at before. So I'll go onto the image, and then I go add an image file, and then go into Power Platform Learn Logo, then click open on that, and then in it goes. So I think what I'll do is maybe I'll just pop it there. I'm not the most amazing at design, so maybe pop it top right there. So that's okay. That's how this thing is actually going to land at the moment. You can play around with that. What I'm going to do is, it kind of needs a title. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a label, and I'm going to drag that onto the screen, and I'm going to make it go, I'll pop it on, and I will now need to sort of do some bits and pieces with it. Now I quite like having the background black and the text white. It seems to kind of come across reasonably well. So what I'm going to do on that is I'm going to go on to the fill property of this, of the label. In fact, they have changed some of the ways in which these things work. So I will need to just go onto there. Now color, I'll just see what happens if I go black on this, because it hasn't actually said anything there. So color, that is actually the color of the text itself. So I could change that. But what I wanted to do was to actually bring in and change the background fill, which doesn't appear to be an option. Now I suspect this is just a timing thing, and in over the course of time we will actually get that as an option, because it certainly exists in normal Power Apps. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to say, well, hey, if you won't let me have that, then maybe they'll let me have a rectangle. It does let me have a rectangle, and what I can do onto the rectangle is I can go onto the properties. I'm going to make that black. Then I'm going to sort of make it a bit bigger. Go onto the label. It says color, and I'm going to make it white, and just type in white there, and then I'm going to pop it over. But notice that it doesn't actually fit correctly, or rather the one is in front of the other. So if I right click on this and reorder it and bring it to the front, then you'll see that actually appears. So I'm going to sort of move this down a little bit here, and all I'm doing now is just playing around with this to see how best to actually make this appear on the screen. So I'm going to bring that back there. I'm just going to right click on this and bring it to the front. Bring this across here, then move this to the top right, and I will now kind of fiddle around with the font size. So maybe make the font size something like 40, see how that looks. That's certainly starting to look better. Then I can just go full screen on this, and I will just bring that so the text should align into the middle. It doesn't appear to want to do that, so that may be just something that's kind of localized, as in it may fix itself over time, as I can see that I've got, there's centering. Yeah, lovely. Now, what I can do now is I can then go onto the text, which is up on the right here. We can also go onto the properties here. So you can see that text is a property. Currently it says a label, and now I'm going to call it school achievements. And you might want to put a button here to make it move to the next screen. In fact, you definitely will. So what I'm going to do is going to drag this onto the screen here, and what I'm going to do is I can play with the size and so on. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I'm just going to go into there, and the text says button, and I'm going to say record achievements, and although we haven't actually created our ability to navigate to another screen, I will now show how you can navigate to another screen. So now we've only got 2 screens at the moment. So if we go onto this tree view here, we've got SCR Home, that's the screen that we're currently on, and we've got SCR People. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, it says button type standard, and what I'm looking for is the on select property. What happens when you select it? So on select, what happens? And I'm going to say, well, navigate. And I typically would click on navigate. And where are we going to navigate to? We're going to navigate to screen people. But in reality, we won't do that. We would navigate to an achievement screen, which is one of the screens that we'll be developing later on. So let's just go screen people, and then I can close the bracket. Then that means that if I go onto preview and click record achievements, it's going to take us off to that screen. So now that we've got that screen, we probably need a back button on this in reality. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play with this little thing here, and I'm going to go insert. Now, believe it or not, if you type in icon, it won't actually find it, even though an icon actually exists. So I have to sort of hunt these down. And in fact, it just appears here in this particular area here. And all you do is you click add icon and it will pop one onto the screen. Now I'm going to move this across to the right hand side, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type the word back, and what it's going to do is it's going to change that icon to be a back icon. Now it's a bit big at the moment by reference to everything else. You can move it into different places, but notice you can't actually move it outside of this space. So what we'll see later on is that we will build a screen that will enable us to have more control over what's happening. So notice when we built the navigation screen, the home screen, we had full control over where we could put things. This is a different type of screen, and so consequently we can't do the same sorts of things, and it just reflects some of the developments that Microsoft are trying to make in this space. Now what I need to do now is, for this to actually work, I need to change the formula here. And there's a nice little navigation formula. It's called back. And if I do back, open brackets, close brackets, that's exactly what it will do. So if I go onto preview now and click back, it'll take us there. Click record achievements, click back. It just bounces between the two of them. What we'll also do is we can actually add another button here. In fact, maybe put this across here, and I'm now copying just Control C and Control V. And what I'm actually going to do is, instead of it saying text, I'm going to say add student. Because I think that in reality that's what you're likely to be doing. Add student, and then maybe we'll do add category, because there is a category screen that we will be making. Add category. So there we are. And that will then take us to the different elements of the screen. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to move this up here and just show you, if you click all 3 of these and then you right click on it and click reorder, in fact it's align, and then you distribute vertically, it will distribute it perfectly vertically according to where the top item is and where the bottom item is. And all this is really doing is changing the X and Y properties. So if you actually go down and look at the X property there, you'll see it's 905. It's an odd number, but that's the number it's at. This is all we've done, is we've automatically changed the in fact, it wasn't the X property, it was actually the Y property. It's the Y property. This one's 501 and the one Y property is 393 here. So these things are just distributed in that way. So we've made it took us a little bit of a while, but we've actually made a landing screen for our app. And what I can now do is I can save the app and then I can preview it to see that it's actually going to work nicely for me. I can now click add student. In fact, all of these buttons go to the same place at the moment. So I would click add student, and then it will take me to this page, and then I can just click new record and I can start to add more students into this space. So as a recap for this lesson, what we did was we looked at the tree view, we saw the things that were in our app, we created a new screen, we moved the screen up so that it was the first screen that we would land on, we renamed the screens, then we went and got some resources that we could add in, we put in some labels and buttons and images, and in fact on the buttons we also created a navigation experience for people to make use of. So you can start to see that this app is beginning to take shape. So in the next lessons, we are going to be developing the app further so that we can do more things with it. I'll see you in the next lesson. In this next lesson, we are going to start building out our app into some more detail. So we know that in order to record our achievements, we're going to need to be able to have a form to record our achievements. But as well as having a form to record our achievements, we also need something called a gallery, because a gallery is just essentially, it's a list. So I'm going to start with this list. And then I will then move on to creating a form that relates to the list, and we'll see how we can do that. Now later on we'll actually do a shortcut version of doing this, but I want you guys to understand what it is you're actually building and how you can and how simple it is in reality. Let's move over to Power Apps to start building that. Here I am in Teams. I'm in the Power Apps app. If you can't see the Power app, make sure you just type in the word power and then you'll get the app. But when you've got it, make sure you pin it here so that you can get to this space. What I'm now going to do is going to head up to build, then I'm going to go on to learn, then I'm going to see all, and I think I can actually click on the feedback app here. It's going to open the app. But yeah, and it has actually opened the app in a fashion that allows me to continue building. This is not we're not working with the data at this point in time. We sort of are, but it's not in a published state. So this is going to get things ready so that we can start editing. We can start to see the whole of the canvas that we've got available to us here. And what I'm going to do now is I want to show you that we can now add a new screen, because at the moment we've got screen home, we've got screen people. What we need is a new screen, and then that's going to be our feedback screen. So I'm going to click on new screen. In fact, I could do a copy of this screen. So I'm going to write, I can go new screen. I'll show you how to do new screen blank. It's just going to create a new screen and it's going to be completely empty. But I'm going to not do that. I'm going to delete that. And I'm actually going to duplicate the screen, and just because it's going to give me some things that are kind of helpful. Now, as far as these buttons and pictures and so on are concerned, I don't really need them. So I'm just going to sort of highlight them here and I'm going to delete them. But notice that this is now, it's, you know, everything is all in place and so on. I may not keep the background in here. And notice all these strange names of things. You can change all those, just go onto them and change them. I mean, as I won't be using it in a formula, I'm not too fussed about it at this point in time. So the purpose of this session is we've created a screen, but what we want to do is we want to create a gallery here, and later on we'll create a form. So I'm going to go back onto this screen home, and I'm going to call it SCR achievements. That's going to be the screen where we record all our achievements. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a gallery. So this gallery is going to be on the left hand side. I think that's what I'll do. So what I need to do is click the plus here, and what you've got an option for is a vertical gallery. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to bring that in. It's going to say, hey, which information do you want in here? And I'm going to say, well, do you know what? I'd quite like you to give me the feedback. And what I'm going to do is I can see that the feedback has come in already. Now I'm just going to sort of squeeze this up, because the idea is on the right hand side you'll be able to click in there and you'll be able to see some more details. So that I mean, we haven't actually put very much details in here. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably add a few more students in here so that we can get this thing working. Now the thing to note about a gallery is when you want to interact with that small template, you need to select on the actual the very first item in there. So you can do that in one of two ways. You can either click on the top one, that means you're there, or you can click on the pencil, which means you're there as well. Now what I'm going to do is you need to just keep making sure that you can see everything that's going on here. So in my gallery, I have this rectangle 3, and unhelpfully, that is at the front. So it's in front of everything. It's not what we want. So I'm going to right click on that, reorder it, and send it to the back. And notice that it goes down to the bottom. It's a bit like moving it up and down. So that's now at the back. And notice we've got this thing called subtitle 2. Well, that's got this item dot created on, and in fact I don't want created on. I want there was a date that I added in, so date event. So this is the date it all happened on. And then I can go on to, I've got this image 5 here. It's not using the image at the moment, but we will probably be able to use it if we want to. So but we might need to do some trickery in order to make that work. Now notice that it says we've got the comment, which is great. These things are linked at the moment in terms of the two of them are linked together, but just by moving it around means they won't be linked anymore. Now what I want to do is I'm going to just copy and paste that, and I want to know the name of the student. So I'm going to do this item dot and see what options I've got available to me, because I've been doing this over a period of time, so I want to make sure that I need to see who I've got, which fields I've got here. And as you can see, I've actually got a student field here, so I'm going to click on the student field. Now it's a field, but it represents an entire record. So that means, just imagine an Excel spreadsheet you've got. So we've identified one row, but in order to get something out, we have to click the dot, and then we need to say, well, actually, what do we need to know about that particular person? And what we need to do is there'll be first name. I think we've got first name. First name is one of the options, and we can also do last name. So in fact, I can do first name and do the ampersand and do the same again, and I can just type in last name. So that gives me first name, last name. In fact, I'll need to just put in quote space ampersand, and that'll give me Roger space Federer. Great work, Roger. Now notice the other cool thing that we can do, and this is why the Common Data Service, Oakdale, this is why it's so amazingly cool, because we can get out the picture by navigating the relationship. So the way in which we're going to do it is we're going to say, well, it's going to be this item dot student, and now we need to get the image. Now I can't quite remember the name of we don't want the picture ID. I'm just going to type in image. In fact, I think I called it picture. So if I click on picture, then it's going to go all the way through those relationships and pick out the picture. That is amazing. I think that's brilliant. So we've created a gallery. It doesn't really look like a gallery in all fairness, because we don't have much information here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto this home screen of ours. I'm just going to go preview. Now I need to I need to click on add student, because that's going to take me to my student screen. And now what I want to do is I want to add a new student, because it's a bit strange having only one student. So I'm going to click new record. Then what I can do is Novak. I wish I hadn't picked a Djokovic. I think that's it. And that's full name anyway. So last name, and I'm going to go Novak Djokovic. There we are. And I'm going to say that person is a student, and I'm going to go and dig out a picture. So I've gone and found a picture of Novak. That means I can go and click on Novak and click on open, and then click on the save icon here. He'll become a student that's available to me, and then when I've built things so I can actually enter more than one student, then I'll be able to pick Novak as a student, and then the gallery will start to make more sense. Now, as my app doesn't currently do that, what I've done is I've gone to across to Power Apps, then I've gone to Build, then I'm inside Learn, and now I can click on the feedback table. So I'm clicking on the table, and then I'll have an option to actually start using the visual editor. It's going to tell me all this sort of interesting information about the table. I can go onto the visual editor, because then I can actually say I can say wonderful pictures, say, and then I can click the date, and I can put in a different date. And so this one was on the 10th. I'm going to say, well, that's actually on the 28th of September. Who was the student? I'm going to go on to Novak, and what was the category? I'll just maybe say participation was the category, and then I will be able to I think that's actually saved at this point in time, so that should be okay. And what that means is we can go back to our app, and we can now hit the back button, and we can go to record achievements. In fact, that was not actually navigating correctly, so what we can do is go on to OK on there and click on the button, and then we'll go on to the we need to go onto the on select, and what we're going to navigate to is SCR, and we're going to go to SCR achievements. So that means now when we hit the preview button at the top here, we've gone to preview, click on to record achievements. In fact, that's not refreshed yet, so we might want to pop a little refresh in there. So I'm just gonna pop a little refresh on there, because I know that's what this is what it's needing at the moment. So I'm going to go on to insert and pop in an icon and put it up there, and then I'm going to change it, and I think refresh, it's reload is the option here. And what is it going to do? It's actually going to refresh is the command. What is it going to refresh? It's actually going to refresh the feedback, and then I'm going to close the brackets, and then we're all okay. So now I'm going to hit the preview, and I should find that if I hit the refresh, then we're going to have that come through for us. That's nice, that's great, but it's clearly not perfect yet. Now, as it happens, they are in the order in which I'd like it. I would typically want the most recent at the top, but not everyone's different. So, but what we can do on here is we can actually change that. So we can actually do sort. Now we've got two options: sort or sort by columns. I'm just going to do a basic sort, and we're going to sort what we're going to sort by, and I think it's called date event. And how we're going to sort it, we're actually going to sort it descending, and that means it's all going to be in the right order as far as I'm concerned. Now, if we called it ascending, then we would see these two will actually switch around, but descending is what I need in this particular space. So there we are. We've got a gallery, and nothing really happens in that gallery at this point in time. I am going to just change this format in here, because actually it's not it's not very helpful. It's in a US format and it's not useful to everybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little formula on here, wrap it in this thing called text, pop a little comma in, and then you just do this weird format here, and it's kind of DD YYYY. Now I'm going to put the quotes around it. In fact, that's not very good at all. And I'll close the bracket, just give you an idea of how it actually works. So DD space MM space YYYY, and now I'm going to change it again. I'm actually going to say, well, actually it's DDD, so that means it's going to be the day of the week. Interestingly, Roger got his award on a Saturday, and in fact you could change the month to MMM. So that now changes to say October. It's a much more readable format for us to be able to review the information here. But it just shows you that the options we've got are pretty cool in this space. So as a recap of this lesson, what we did was we created a gallery. In fact, we created a new screen and we renamed it as Screen Achievements. We did it as a copy from the screen home, which is why it's got the nice background and so on. Then what we did was we introduced, using the plus on the left hand side, we brought in a gallery. It was a vertical gallery. We then associated that gallery with our feedback entity. And then we also sorted it by the date that the event took place and made it descending to make it look a bit nicer. Now, one thing I notice on here, interestingly, is that my image the image appears to have disappeared. And so what I'm just going to go on to is the image here, this item.student.picture. I'm not quite sure why it's actually disappeared, but it has. In fact, it is there. It's happy, but you can actually see it's now reached all the way through those relationships in order to pull out the face of the student in this case. I hope you found this lesson useful, and in the next lesson what we're going to do is we're going to add in the functionality that will allow people to introduce new achievements for their students. See you in the next lesson. In this lesson, we are going to extend our Students' Achievements app by adding in a form that will allow a teacher to record that one of the students did well in one of the categories. So let's move over to Power Apps to do that. So as you can see, I'm in Teams here. What I need to do is go to Build. I always go from this point here because I think that's where you guys are going to start. So what we need to do is we're going to need to go onto our feedback app. We just click on there. You need to make sure you're in the correct team for continuing to develop this. Notice though that you can have more than one screen open. So you could actually, if you wanted to, you could add more information whilst this was all taking place. So maybe we could say, maybe you could say handwriting improvement. And what we could do on that is we could then pop in a little date. So we could say that actually that took place on the 23rd. And who was that? Well, that was Roger. And it was, once again, it was the handwriting. Well, I'm going to have to do that. In fact, I can always change this and not make it handwriting. I can say, well, participation. And I can then that you can notice on the right hand side here, when it is changed, it just moves to saved. And so that's looking good now. And also on the other screen, this thing has actually woken up. So we're now in our app. Notice that it started on our home screen. So if we actually click on the tree view, we can see our 3 screens that we've got, and we've got our achievements screen here. Now the achievement screen has basically got 3 items in it now because we've only just finished writing one. And notice that we've got the sorting is starting to make a little bit more sense, because we had Roger who did great handwriting on the 23rd of September, and then on at the weekend on the 3rd of October he managed to do some great work, which is fantastic. Well done, Roger. So what I'm going to do now is I would like to add in a form. Now the form is going to do 2 things. It's going to present this information slightly differently, but it's also going to enable us to edit the information. So this is one to really watch closely with, because there are some really subtle things that we will be doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is hit the plus here, and then I'm going to go on to edit form, and I'm going to drag this onto the canvas here. It's dragged onto the canvas, wonderful. I can now change the data source. Now that data source in this case, we want it to be the feedback. We don't have to be the feedback, but we are going to make it the feedback. So I'm going to click on this here, and then what it's going to do is it's going to automatically bring in certain fields, but it's basically going to guess the fields. So notice here that it's guessed that we want 2 fields, date event and comment. And notice that the comment has actually got a star beside it, and that's a required field. And that's because it is our primary field. It is a field that we must have something in. But what I need to do now is I need to add some fields in. In fact, I did that a little bit quickly. So what I need to go is to the right hand side here, then click on edit fields, and then click on add field. Then what we can do is we can tell it the field that we are most interested in putting in. So what I want to make sure is I want to tell it the student that I'm interested in. So that one's definitely got to go in. And I think there's the category. We should have category in as well. And now, in fact, it was keep jumping off. So I'm just going to click on category and go down onto student and then click add, and it's going to pop those in. Now, although it's added those in, we can shift these things around. It's not as obvious as it might seem as to how to shift them around. So what you can do is you can either drag them up and down. Now I would guess that the comment would have more writing in it. So that would possibly be towards the bottom. In fact, and then maybe the student thing is at the top because you'd want to pick the student first. But notice it's not really perfect yet. There are some features here that are not immediately obvious to us. Now the first one that's not immediately obvious is we've got this thing called width fit. So that means that it kind of goes and stretches across the entire screen. The second thing is like, well, isn't it strange that the student is there on its own, but maybe the event isn't there? So I'm thinking that what I would like to do is I would like to have the student, the date event and the category in the same place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do that. So looking on this date event here is if you look on here and you go down to the Y property, the Y property is 1. So effectively what we're really saying is that this bit here is 0 and this is 1. And notice that in terms of X and Y, this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2. And I can show you that. Now it is a little bit peculiar, so just be aware of that. So I've just clicked on that, and if I go onto the X property, you can see that the X property is 2. And so typically when I'm changing these, I actually go onto the actual X property because I don't like moving them up and down. I'm maybe I'm a control freak, but if I click 0 on that, it's now going to move it up. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to say, well, actually, I want this. It's done another width fit here, so I'm going to say off on that, and then I'm going to go onto the X property of this. And you might find the X property for both of these is actually 0. So if I go on to the X property for the bit which says student, and that's also 0. So it basically just puts one of them in front of the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, actually, I think I'll put the date first That seems to make sense. Then the student. Then what I think I'll do, I think I'll actually, I will then put the category. So I will go onto the Y option here and click 0. It's going to pop it on the right hand side. It has got width fit, but there's nowhere left to fit this width anyway. So now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to sort of drag this down. In fact, I need to make this a little bit bigger here because I think the comment probably needs to be a bit bigger. And I'm just going to make the box for the comment so that I've got more space. Now, one thing on this that is not immediately obvious is the comment field will only take a certain amount of information. So what I'm going to do is refer back to the data model so I can see how much that can actually take. So I'm going to go on to Power Apps and I'm just going to these tables here and I'm just going to click on the feedback and I'm going to go on to comment. And when I click on comment, what it's going to go do is show me under advanced options, I've got a max length here. So you cannot write a comment of more than 100 characters. Now we might be able to, let's just see, we can go to 200, that's fine. But what you won't be able to do, I think that you may find that your maximum option here is I think it's 400. So if I do 500 and then click done, in fact, you can go much more than that. But clearly, if it's the comment field, you kind of want maybe a summary and then a comment. So you can change how much information can go in here. So now I'm going to click Save Table. So maybe the comment here, maybe what we think is, we actually think in this case that we think that actually 45 characters is the most that you can do in here. It may need to be more. So I'm going to click Save Table. It's going to save that table. Do bear in mind that if you start messing around with this, it might start truncating information you've already put in. Now I've put in some quite small amounts of information, but you may find that things get chopped off. So this is comment here, and by default it won't really let you put in more information than you're allowed. It might do that, and watch what happens when we preview it, because it's just going to disappear, and that's really strange. Now, the reason for that is because we haven't told it, we haven't said anything to make it appear. So what we need to do is we need like some kind of plus icon, and I'm not going to go into a kind of beautiful user interface to make that happen. I'm just going to hit a plus icon and make this thing work. So what I can do is I can go onto the plus, I can go add icon, I'm just going to drag it across here. We know we can change the formatting in this space here, and I'm going to go add, in fact add is perfect for me. I'm just going to check if I've got a fill property, and I'm going to say, well actually I'm going to make the fill property, let's make it white. I'm only really demonstrating this just to show you that you can do this sort of thing. Now what we now need to do is we need to do the onSelect property. So onSelect, what's going to happen? Well actually onSelect, what is going to happen, we're going to do new form. Which form are we going to do? We've only got one form in here. In fact, there are two, as it happens. This one is called Form 1. And in fact, I'm going to call it FRM feedback. There we are. So it's actually got a name now. And so I'm going to go new form FRM, and it's FRM feedback, and then close the brackets. That's all we needed to do. So I've got a date, event, student, and category. Now, although these are system field names, you can change them. So if actually you go on to advanced, and then you go unlock to change properties, you've now got the ability to change it. And what you can then do is you can then say event date. I'm just saying, look, this is an option. You know, maybe we should have put the correct field name there in the first place. I was just making sure that I had no spaces in my field name, because that can cause problems. So I've now changed the event date here. And what I can do now is I can hit the preview. Now I can hit the plus icon here, and now I can add something. So I can now go onto here and I can say, well, actually, when did this event take place? In fact, I need to go to, I wanted to go up here. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe it's the 8th of September. I'll do my student, and that's going to be Novak. I'll do the category, helping the teacher, and then do great, I loved that apple. Okay. And in fact, one thing we haven't done is we don't have a submit button here. So what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to show you that you can go onto here, you can go onto the properties, and this is a trick that, you know, won't be immediately obvious to you at all. What we're going to do is we're going to create a submit button. What we're going to do is add a field, but what we need to do is we need to add in, in fact, we're not going to add a field, we're going to add a custom card. It's going to be an empty card. Notice that it's empty down at the bottom here. So what we're going to do is notice that this one hasn't got a width fit, but I would like to have a width fit on that, and I'm going to go change that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a button and I'm going to drag it into this space here. So it's my button, and I'm just going to go onto the fill color, and I'm going to make that, let's just make it blue. And there's loads of different colors that you can choose. In fact, I'm going to make it light gray because I don't really want to get caught up in too much of this. I just want to be able to change the text here, submit, and then maybe change the size of the text because that is really quite small. Let's make it 40, something like that. And then what we need to do is tell it what to do when you click on it. So on select, what we're going to do, and we're going to do submit form, and it's going to be form 1, FRM feedback. There we are, close the brackets. So now what I can do is I can go onto preview and I can now click submit. And when that happens, we should find that it will appear in this space here and it'll actually be genuinely recorded. So let's click on submit. Boom, that went in. And how cool is that? That the image for that student came in. That to me is brilliant. We're going to do one more thing. And the thing that we're going to do is we are going to make sure that when someone selects on the items here, we're going to make it appear in this form space over here on the right hand side. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go onto the edit. I'm going to click don't show me this again. And then what I'm going to do is going to tie those things together. So if I go onto there and if I go onto the entire form, so let's just make sure that we go onto there. You can see I've selected the entire form. Now if I hit the drop down here, what I'm looking for is the item. It's saying, hey, which one do you want me to look at? Now the one we're going to look at is the thing that's inside this gallery, and it's called Gallery 1 at the moment. So I'm going to rename it to be Gal Feedback, just so our formula is a bit easier to read. So it needs to be Gal Feedback. Click enter. And then what we're going to do is click on the screen, and I need to get the item property. Now what that's going to be is it's going to be Gal Feedback, and then it's going to, we need to tell it which one we're looking at. So we need to go dot selected and then close the bracket. So now it's actually going to look at the one that we've selected, which is quite cool. So I can click on the different ones and I can change things around. In fact, not only can I change things, now we need to be a bit careful with this, but let's, I'll just go onto here and do test 1, 2, 3, and let's just do handwriting improvement. In fact, you can't see all of the text, which is a problem. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to click submit on that. It did actually change it. I wasn't sure if it was gonna do that for me. Now, and so we can start to see that there are different options here. Now, what I could do is where it says this item.comment, maybe we don't want comment. Maybe we want category. And remember, category is a table. And so if we look on here and we go onto tables and we go feedback category, and then we go and we click on the options here and we can go to custom. We've actually got the name and we've got the number of points. So it's really saying which of these two fields, which of any of the fields do we want to provide. So if I go onto here, I'm going to say this item.category and I'm going to say, well, name. So we're now starting to see some differences in behavior in this particular area. So we've got participation, but we can click on it and we can see more information. There's lots of clever ways in which we can work this, but you can see it starting to come together. So this has been a busy lesson. But let's do a recap of what we've done. We started off, we had a gallery already. We created a form. We connected the form to the fields, to the data source, which was our feedback data source. We then added some fields in there. We then shifted them around the place. We added a custom card in there. In that custom card, we put that submit button in there, and then we made a change to the formula on the submit button. We did a few name changes to go as well, and we also added this plus icon and made that made the form spring into life when we clicked on there. So now we're starting to get something that is kind of useful. I noticed that this thing doesn't actually have a back option here. So on select, I'm just going to pop a back option here and change this to be back. And that means that we can now navigate around here. And clearly this is not an amazing UI, but it would work well enough. So that means that we can go to home, we can go to preview, we can go to record achievements, we can go back from there, go to record achievements, and then we can hit the plus icon and we can start to add more things in there. Wow. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson. In this next lesson, I'm going to show you a couple of ways in which we can shortcut the gallery and form creation process. Essentially, we're going to do a copy and paste and change a few formulas around, and it'll all work nicely once we're done. So I'm just going to show you how we can do that. Let's move over to Power Apps to do so. Here we are, we're in Power Apps. We've navigated to our app. This is the preview version of it. So we can see that we can go to Add Student. That's one combination of gallery and form. So the gallery is shown on the left-hand side, the form is shown on the right-hand side. And similarly, we can also see that we have got in the achievements section, we've also got a gallery on the left hand side and a form on the right hand side. So what we're going to do in this next section is show you how we can create a form and gallery just by a copy paste process. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a copy and paste of the one that we created. And then we'll move on to doing the one that the Teams function also created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the 3 dots on the SCR achievements and then click duplicate screen. As simple as that. Then I'm actually going to change the title of this because it's got SCR achievements 1, and what's actually going to be called SCR, and this is going to be categories. Right, good. So that's my categories, and it's all gonna, work. Well, it's not looking at the right thing at the moment. So what I'm going to do here is I'm now going to change the formulas here so that it actually points at the right table. Now I'm going to click on here, and it's going to be categories, feedback categories, but notice that it doesn't like the sort. The reason why it doesn't like the sort is because it doesn't have a field called date event. So all this is going to be is feedback categories. It's also upset because it's actually referencing fields it doesn't have either. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to say this item, and I think I've got it as it's called .name. Okay, great. .name, that's participation. In fact, and then there's also this item I think we could add points was one of the options here. So there's different points there, and I'm now going to click on the other ones, and I'm literally just going to delete them. Just make sure I click on that item there. In fact, I can click on it on the left hand side as well. Obviously you can see me clicking on different items. There's no concept of an image for participation, so I'm going to delete that. It may make more formulas go wrong, but it's actually okay at this point in time, so that's fine. Now that's happy. The reason why the form isn't happy is because it's pointing at a data set that it doesn't understand. So what it's saying is that, well, I don't understand. You've got this thing called gal feedback. I should probably rename that. But the actual data source for this form is actually the feedback, so it doesn't make any sense. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to say, well, actually, it's feedback categories you need to be looking at. It's give me an option to replace my data cards. I'm going to say no thanks. The reason I'm going to say no thanks is because I like my submit button. So I'm going to say no thanks to that, but it's going to be upset with me. So what I'm now going to do is just going to delete these ones individually and delete those. And then I'm going to go to the edit fields and then add field and then add a number of these fields. So they've got points, and I think it was name was the other option, and then I can click add on there, and they may end up in an odd position. In fact, I'm going to click on that, and if we go to the Y option there, it's changed it to 0, and we actually want it to be 1, so that everything's all nicely lined up. Now I'm pretty sure that might actually work now. So let's give that a go. I'm going to go ahead and hit preview, hit the plus icon, and the points for it is going to be 2. And what is the thing that they've done? And maybe they were just happy in class. Helping classmates. There we are. Helping classmates. It's worth 2 points, and that's now gone in there. So that's actually worked. It's done what I needed it to do. The back button will work because the back button, all it does is go back. Now the reason why it doesn't work is because we never went to it. So it doesn't understand where to go back from. So what I can do now is I go to the screen home and then go to the add categories. In fact, where it says add category, I'm going to say categories. And then where it's, I've got the option now to go on to select, as in it should be on, it says on change. This feels a bit odd, on change. That does seem a bit odd. I'm just going to go on to there, and it shouldn't be that. It's on select, there we are, on select, and it's going to be navigate SCR, and it's going to be categories. So now what we've got is something that actually works. I'm going to click on there, and it gets me there, and I can navigate back. It will definitely work. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it, which is a similar operation, and it's going to be using the version that Teams created for us. So, and that's in the people page that we've got here. So what I'm going to do is hit the 3 dots there, then I'm going to duplicate the screen, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start making changes. So it's called SCR people. I'm going to say, well, actually it needs to be SCR achievement I'm going to call it V2. Because I'm not actually going to keep this anyway. Then what's the people going to be? Well, it's actually going to be, achievements. Now, I need to just, it's feedback. No, it isn't. It's it's actually categories. I've got that one wrong. So categories. It's called feedback categories. That was what it was. So it wasn't actually achievements at all. It's not happy with us. I'm going to change the name here, because it should be cat v2. That'll do, because I won't, as I say, I won't keep this. Now it's looking at feedback categories. It's not too upset with me. I'm going to go edit in the formula bar, and this is going to be this item dot points. Click on there, then it's got the points in. I'm going to edit in the formula bar because it's got no concept of a picture, so I'm just going to delete that. And there's obviously something else in there. Yeah, the X property, and unfortunately when the X property for this item is not in the right place, but essentially I can just, if I fiddle around with it, it just moves it around, which is good enough for me at this point. So the gallery is okay. Now this thing says people, and in fact what we need it to be is, it needs to be categories. Then we need to go onto the form, and the form's not happy because it's not happy with the item that's selected. Now the way to make it happier is to actually change it to the feedback categories. Then it'll say, do I want to replace my data cards? And in this case, I will replace the data cards. So that's going to work here. And in fact, I don't think we're that far off. I'm just going to see what it's unhappy with here. Okay, so what we've got here is different ways of interacting with this. And some of the things that are in here are not visible. Now, so what I mean by that is that if I go on to preview this and I click on the handwriting one or helping teacher one, and I click on the delete, do you want to delete this record? The issue is on this delete thing here. What it's saying is that it wants to remove something from the people, whereas what it needs to do is remove it from the feedback categories. So if I just do feedback categories and do a copy and paste of that, and then copy and paste of that, I'm not going to go into what the formula is actually doing, but to all intents and purposes, it's actually just deleting it. But I may actually just do the delete operation just to show you how. So I'll press cancel on that. It's now working. It's actually all happy. So now what I can do, I notice that I don't actually have a plus icon here. So I've got a new record here. What's that going to do? In fact, it's a bit daft, because this one here is, it's trying to do this edit form 1.1. So I just need to have a little look at that to see what the name of this form is. Now the name of form is edit form 1.1. It does seem to be happy. What is this thing? It looks like it's a button. So in fact it has actually worked. So this thing does actually work. And I'll just call it test 1, 2, 3. Points is 3, and then I'll press OK on that, and it has actually added it. But what I'm now going to do is going to click on it. I'm actually going to delete it. Do you want to delete this record? Delete this record. And now it has actually deleted that. So if I go back, in fact, because of how we navigated to this, the back button doesn't work either. But what we could do is, as before, we could change the way in which this operates here so that we can actually navigate to that item. But actually I'm quite happy that this one takes me to my categories and allows me to submit it. Do be careful about deleting things, because giving people the option to delete things, particularly when they are related tables, is pretty dangerous. Because if you go back onto here and you go to record achievements, we can see that we've got helping teacher as one of the options. Now if we delete that category, helping teacher, it won't be something that could ever have been picked. But let's just experiment with that. So we're going to go back, we go into the categories, got helping teacher, and we can now go and, in fact, I don't have an option to delete that. So what I'm going to do is I will come off this. And in fact, I'm just going to navigate directly to this Cat V2 and I'm just going to hit the preview, click on helping teacher, click on the delete. I'm going to delete this record now and then I'm going to go home and I'm going to go onto this record achievements thing here, and notice that this thing has gone blank because it's not something it can ever have been. In fact, it's rather upset, this thing here, because no longer it seems to be able to I think I may have got the item wrong on this. So if I just go onto here and go onto this thing here, then yeah, it's gal feedback selected. I'm not quite sure what it's upset with at the moment. Maybe just because I'm in the edit mode that it's not too happy with me. But I notice that it's not firing correctly. It's not. I think it's possibly because it's in new form mode. In fact, that's definitely it. So what I can do is, the reason why it's upset is because it doesn't go into a new form mode. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to change that. And so what I'm going to do is go onto there and go, excuse me, go onto record achievements. And as you can see, this form here, it's in the middle of submitting something, and that's why it's upset. And so what I'm now going to do is I am going to stop it being in that mode. The way in which I'm going to do is I'm going to go onto the plus, then I'm going to go and bring in a button, pop it on there, and the on select property on select is going to be edit form. It's going to be edit form, and we need to just check which form it is actually called. It's called FRM feedback. So FRM for feedback, and I click on that and I should be able to close that. And now if I hit the preview and I click on there, it is actually now behaving itself. It's not a perfect way of doing this, but it was just annoying enough for me to not be happy with it. So we've come to the end of this particular lesson. I showed you two ways in which you could essentially copy and paste the galleries and the forms just to make life a little bit easier for yourselves. Hope you found the lesson useful, and in the next lesson we're going to extend the app even further. See you in the next lesson. In this next lesson, I'm going to show you how easy it is for you to publish the app that you've created into a Teams channel so that your team members can start benefiting from it. Let's go and take a look at that. Now, this may well turn out to be one of the shorter lessons in this module. All we need to do is we need to click on the save option here. I'm going to assume that you can get to this space fairly easily by now. And now I'm going to publish it to Teams. Click Publish to Teams. Then I will click on Next. Got an option here to click Next. And what it will do is it will tell me the channels that exist within my team that are available to me. So in my case, I have got 2 channels that are available to me, so I can put it in either one of those channels. I can put it in both. So now if I hit the plus, what I can do is I've put that in there and I can click save and close. We can actually now start to see this actually working. So I'll just give that just a moment in order to finish its operation. So I'm now going to go up to Teams, and I'm going to go over to Teams, and then I'm going to go down to Learn, and you can see there are 2 channels here. I think I put it into Power Platform Learn, and you can now see that up in the top there, you've got the feedback app there, and you can still move that around if you wish. And now if I click on that feedback app, our app will start to spring into life. This is fine. If your team member has access to Teams, they have access to this app and they can start using it. You can click on add student and you can start putting in new records. You can put the first name, last name, etc., do the person type, all those sorts of wonderful things. And you can genuinely make use of this app. What I'll show you now is that notice that it doesn't exist in the general tab. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go on to publish to teams again, go on to next. It's going to give me the options. It'll actually tell me that I've already published into one of the channels. And so you can see one active tabs. It says show tabs there. So in fact, I'm going to click on this here. Let's see if we can actually, we don't actually have an interesting option to remove it here, but what we'll see is that we can remove it. So I'm going to hit the plus option here. It's now happy with that. In fact, I noticed that I can actually hit the X here but I don't have the option to click the X on the Power Platform Learn tab. But that's not an issue because we can still take it out. So I'm going to click Save and Close. So that's now published it to Teams. I can go to the General tab here, and I'm just going to click onto Power Platform Learn. You can see that I've got the app here. I'm just going to go on to the second one, onto General. It's obviously got a few more things in here, and you can see the feedback app is there as well. And now what I'm going to show you is I can right click on there and I can remove that from there. I'll click on remove, and I can also go on to the feedback app here, right click, and I can remove it from here as well. And then it says it's permanently removed. That's fine, I'm happy with that. And if we then go back to Teams and then we go to publish to Teams, what we should see is it doesn't think that there is anything in that this app has been published into any of the tabs. So that's all that is needed for you to publish your app into Teams. Pretty simple if you ask me. I hope you found this lesson useful, and I'll see you again in the next lesson. I've got some really interesting things to show you there. Thanks. In this video, we are going to extend the School Achievements app so that you can actually send an email to a parent or carer to say that their child has done well. So let's move over to Power Apps in Teams to do that. So I'm in Teams, I've gone to my Power Apps icon on the left hand side. I can now go to Build, and then I'm in Learn, which is my team that's got everything that I know and love in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to soup up the app so that it can actually send an email, and we're going to do it in a very straightforward way. Now, one thing that we haven't done so far is we haven't indicated what the email address is for the child's parent or carer. So I'm just going to go on to people, and I'm going to change this particular entity so that it can do that. Now we've got to this slightly scary screen here, and what we can do is we can change it from default to go to custom, and then we'll see there's just a few fields, and these are fields that we created. Now I can add a column here. I could go to the visual editor, but I'm actually going to add a column here, and what we'll be able to see is that we'll be able to see the fields that we're going to create. Now, I've got a number of different field types that I can create, and obviously email is one of them. That's the one I'm going to do. And then the display name is whatever display name I want to give it. And I'm going to say, I'll say carer email. Now, clearly I could make this a lot more detailed in terms of carer 1, carer 2. I could even have a related a relationship between the child and the parent, which is one of the routes that I could have gone down, but I'm gonna kind of maybe try and keep it a little bit simple at this point in time. So if this was a real solution, probably wouldn't be how I'd do it, but this is good enough for the purposes of this exercise. Now, is it required? Do you know what? I think it probably would be required. So you can see that this is one of the options I've got here. I'm going to leave it at the moment, but just bear in mind that if you try to fire an email to someone and they didn't have an email address, it's not going to actually be very successful. So I'm going to click done on that, and then I'm actually going to pop into the visual editor, and let's just see, I'll click save table and just see if that field is actually showing in my visual editor. So I'm just going to pop into here, and it does actually appear, which is kind of handy. It's interesting that on the picture field, then we've got these the people's pictures, but we can't actually see, we haven't got an ability to add the picture. That's not a problem. So what I'm going to do is under Roger Federer, I'm just going to go in here, and I should really change the app actually. I think we know that I can write an email in there. That's dead easy. What's probably a bit better is if I actually go onto the app, go onto my feedback app, click on that. What we're going to do is we're going to go to the people form. We're going to add that field into the people form, so that then if that child has an achievement, then you'll get an email. Then the parent can be sent an email. So we're just going to wait for this to fire up. That's brilliant. And so now I'm going to go to add student. I'm going to click on Roger Federer, and then I'm going to click the X there, and then I'm going to click on the form itself, and I'm going to go to edit fields, and then I'm going to add field, and then I'm just going to type in email. You can see it said Ikera email. That's the field that we created. Click on that, click add, and then it'll appear in our form. So that was kind of easy. So now we can actually change that. And so I'm going to put in my email address. In fact, I'll do, I will do a different email address. In fact, interestingly enough, I just need to make a change to that. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I'll do tester@dataspinners.co.uk. In fact, I don't actually normally log into tester at dataspinners.co.uk, so I better put my own email address and pop that in there, and then click the OK on that. And that means it's got an email address. I could do something neat on here, and I could just put a little dot of some kind. So if it's got the email, then it'll have a dot, and then if it doesn't. So maybe what we could do is I can go on to a plus, we can go and put in a shape, and then we can do a circle. And I've got a circle, it's appeared here, pop it in there. And then what I can do is go onto the visible properties. That's whether or not it shows or not. Visible, and then what I'll do is I'll say true means it will show. What I'm going to say is blank. Oops. I need to just go on to the property there and use a particular formula. So I'll put is blank. You don't have to do this. This is just something that you could do. Carer email. So that dot will only appear if the email hasn't been filled in. And then maybe if we were doing that, then I'll go onto the fill property of that, and I'll just kind of make it red, because maybe that's an issue for us. Red, and then just go OK on that. So Roger's got his email filled in, but Novak doesn't. So maybe I'm just going to click on Novak. I can kind of edit this one here, go onto the carer email, and then do tester@dataspinners.co.uk. And then I can click the OK on that, and then we'll find that that disappears. So that was nice and easy. What I'm now going to do is show you there's actually quite a simple way of sending an email automatically. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now go onto my my achievements screen. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to maybe create a little bit of space for myself down at the bottom here, maybe just move this around, and I'm just going to add a little email, an opportunity for us to send an email. In fact, what I'll do is I'll create a new screen. I'll do it from this, but then I'll just delete everything out. So I'm just going to screen achievements, hit the dots, duplicate the screen, and then what we'll do is we will populate it with some things that will mean that we can send an email out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take most of these things here, and I will I'll keep that back option there. I'll get rid of the plus, and I don't need this gallery really, and I don't need this refresh option here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the the Outlook connector. And the way in which I'm going to use the Outlook connector, the way in which you'll need to do it, is you'll need to go to the data icon here. You'll need to click Add Data. In fact, you'll need to go down to the connectors, and then you need to click on Office 365 Outlook. And then if it doesn't exist already, you click Add a Connection, and then you click Connect. Now, I don't need two of them, so I'm okay with this. And that means that you will have that available to you in your app. And the purpose of this is so that we can then have the ability to send an email. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to create, I'm going to sort of compose an email, a few bits and pieces so that we can send something out. So in order to do that, I'm going to need a few text inputs. So there's one there, and I'm going to call this, it's got a very long name here, and I'll call it LBL, and it's going to be, in fact, it's going to be TXT, and it's going to be email address. And what I want to make sure these are quite easy to read. Then I'll do another one, and this is going to be TXT, TXT subject. And then I'll do another one, which is going to be TXT comments. TXT comments. Now, what I'm now going to do is I'm now going to make this one a bit bigger, because it will be bigger. And now I'll also change the defaults that we've got here. So maybe this is your child has had an achievement. Okay, so that's going to be the header for our email. In the text box, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to refer it back to the item that we've selected. So I'm actually going to go onto the tree menu here, and I'm going to go down to over to in fact, I've gone onto the wrong one, which is a bit of a disaster actually. So I have now, I'm going to change this here. So hopefully you won't make the mess that I've made of this. I'll call it SCR email. That's fine. And unfortunately, I have managed to make adjustments to the original achievements thing, and then so which means it's all going to kind of go a little bit strange. So I'm going to change this the screen name here, but notice that there are lots of odd names that we've got here. But also, if we go onto the home screen, it will actually go onto the email here. So if I actually go onto record achievement, it's going to go onto the email thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and then where it says record achievements, on select, it'll navigate to SCR, and it's going to be achievement, and that'll take it to the right screen now because I renamed the screen. So that's gone to the right screen, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some kind of email icon. So I'm just going to go up to there, and I'm just going to add another button in. So if I hit a plus and then go onto button, drag it onto the screen here, it is going to be a little bit cramped in here, so maybe I'll make that a little bit bigger. In fact, that's it's quite hard to actually select the right things here. So if I go on to I think if I click on this and I go template size, then that is the height of the template. So I'm going to make this, let's say if I made it 60. 60. That will make it a little bit bigger. And what this will give me an option of doing is sending an email. So now I'm going to it's it's been a bit funny with me in terms of the size of the buttons and so on, but there are ways around that. So I'm going to go on to the text of that button. In fact, it says button. I'll have to send email. Okay, so now I've got an option of sending an email, and what I will do is on select, and it's just going to be a navigate option. So we're just going to navigate, and where are we going to navigate to? It'll be screen, and it'll be the screen email. It must be email, and then close the brackets. But we're going to do some interesting things here. What we're going to do is we're going to have the ability to then start to refer to this particular line item so that we can send that email out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the preview, and then I'm going to click send email. But of course it's not going to send an email. It's just going to take us to this screen. Then what it's going to do is we need to know the email of the child, or rather of the carer for the child. And so what that is if I go to preview and I go back again and then go onto this screen, and then this is called gal feedback _2. It's not a very good name for it. So this should be called gal achievement record. Okay. So it's called gal achievement record. So now what I can do is I can go to send email, and what I can do is in this bit where it says text box here, I can say, well, actually the value here should be gal achievement record dot, then it needs to be selected. That means I've selected, it's the one that I'm currently selected on. That'll be okay. Then what do I need? Well, actually I need the email address. So actually I need to reach in to the people entity, or rather it's the student entity, which is really the people entity, and then do another dot, and then I can type in carer email, and that should result in the correct email address. That has actually worked. So what I'm actually going to do with this is I'm now going to do the same thing, but in this comments checkbox here. Now I'm going to go on to here, and I'm just going to do a preview on this, and just check that this business to do with it being a value is its default value is what we're actually looking at here. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go onto this value thing here, and what we want is gal achievement record dot selected dot, and it's going to be the comment here. So I'm going to click on comment, home out well laid out. That's great. Now notice that this thing here says mode is single line, and in fact what we should do is make it the mode multi-line, and then it just lays it out a little bit better. So homework well laid out. So that's all nice, nicely laid out. We know what the email address that we're sending it to, and all we need now is to be able to have a button that allows us to send that email. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the plus. I'm going to go on to, in fact I can't do icon search, I'm going to drag this onto the screen here. It's a plus icon, but what I should be able to do is, let me just see if there's mail is an option here. There is send. I think send is another nice one, so we can do that. And so we've got a send option here. I'll pop it down at the bottom, maybe like this. And there's better places there's better ways of doing it. In fact, I'll do it there. That's quite a nice little spot there to put it on. And now, on this particular item here, I will need to make sure that it behaves itself. So what I need to do is I need to take a formula. I am going to cheat, and I am going to paste in a formula from here. Now this won't be quite correct yet, so I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, and we're going to make some little changes to it to make sure that it actually behaves itself. So I'm just going to grab this formula, and we will then make some changes to it, because it definitely won't work. So on select, send an email, who you're going to send it to, Rory at Data Spinners, but half of these objects don't actually exist. So you're going to send it to, and this is text email address. So, okay, so you're going to send it to txt email address dot value. Oops. Then you're going to do the subject of the email is going to be, so the subject is going to be this this item here. So it says text txt subject. So I'm going to call it actually txt subject subject dot text. Oops. Oh, it's got dot value. Okay, fine. Dot value, and then the content is going to be txt comments dot value. And then it's all happy at this point in time. And at this point, it would actually send an email across. And so what I'll do is I could then sort of start to kind of make this email a little bit better. So what I can do is I can then I could then do things like we would like to let you know that your child has had an achievement today. And then we can do something like the achievement. Achievement is as follows. And then we can close the quotes and put another ampersand in, and then it'll actually be okay. Notice I actually had to do a shift enter to actually do a line fade here. So the achievement is as follows, and notice that I need to actually put a space in and then another shift enter and maybe another shift enter as well, and then you could make this a lot more interesting as an email. But what we should do now is we should actually try this email out and see if it actually works. So I'm going to hit the preview on this, and I'm now going to click the send on this. So you saw that send, it was very quick, to be fair, and what I can now do with it is I can now go and have a look at my emails to see what happened. So you can see here that the email did in fact send. So what we can do is we can actually go back to Power Apps and we can try that again. I can see that there's actually a bit of a typo in there. So that means I can sort of change that around, move that back. And then what I can do is I can go to the preview, hit the back button, and then maybe click on this one here. And then what we can do is click on send email. Now, I'll go to click on send email. Your child's an achievement. Achievement is as follows. We could have done things like put the child's name in and all that sort of thing. But for the purpose of this video, you know that we can do that sort of thing. Now, the thing that I am interested in knowing is whether or not we can actually add in some extra information in here and the extent to which it will behave itself. Now, just bear in mind that Power Apps for Teams is a bit different to standard Power Apps, so this will be interesting to see whether or not this actually takes the value out of here correctly. So I'm going to click on that. It's now added that in, and I can now go to my email and just see the email. And as you can see, the email has gone out. I'm going to do one more test, and that is to go, now that we have edited this, we have to be a little bit careful about what's going to happen when we next go into this, because you do need to reset things as you go back and forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Teams and now hit the back button, and now go into this one's our participation one. So this is the Novak Djokovic participation. So if I click send email here, it says wonderful pictures. In fact, it kind of has reset itself, so I'm kind of happy with this. And I can put test 1 2 3 and then click on the send icon here. So now we can head off to my email and we can check whether or not that's actually worked correctly. Now, as you can see here, it did actually try and send it. As it happens, it didn't send it because that email address didn't actually work. I may have not allowed it to have Outlook, but the principle is that the attempt was made by the app to actually send it. So I'm really, really happy with this. It actually worked, as well as I could have expected. I hope you found this lesson useful to you. We've pretty well got an app now that if we actually now go save and then we go publish to Teams. Now, one thing I will get you to note is I'm going to duplicate this, but I'm actually going to go into Teams, because if we go into Teams, we'll be able to look at the Learn. In fact, we haven't published it anywhere into Teams, so I'm going to publish it into Teams. I'm going to click Next. It's now going to give me my the screens that are available to me. I've done this before. Click on this Power Platform Learn. I'll cancel that. Click on this one here. Just need to hit the plus. That was it. Save and close. That means that is now available under Power Platform Learn. We can go in there, and if I refresh this, we should see that tab has now been added in. I can see the feedback app, and it's all working. So now notice this time round, we've got these additional things that the user has to be happy with, because it's now got the ability to send emails. I'm going to click allow on that, and now we can go on to this record achievements thing. In fact, and then I've got an option to send the email. Roger Federer in his beautiful handwriting. Sorry, there's just a little glitch there. We'll go record achievements, and I'm going to go on to this and go send email. And you can see that it's in a position to then send that out. Another potentially challenging lesson, but this one is really important because it really does offer the possibility of making a big change to the user experience. It's one thing for a child to know that they've achieved something, but it's another thing to actually get an email that is sent to you. I hope you found this lesson useful, and let me know in the comments below if there's anything that I can help with. Thanks. We've now come to the end of this module. It's been an interesting exercise in creating a solution on top of the Power Apps Teams Common Data Service Oakdale integration. It's a little bit of a mouthful at the moment, but essentially with Teams you get a database and the ability to make apps. So where we started with this, we talked about what we were going to build, this idea that we could record children's achievements and actually then maybe go on to send emails on the back of that. I then talked about the data model that we needed to support that, and we then went on to build the entities that we needed. Now, as it happens, out of the box, you can't quite build all of the fields. So I showed you that you can actually add image fields in a slightly different way, but they are super valuable. I love image fields. We then created a title screen, because title screens are really nice as far as your apps are concerned. It's just a nice landing page is of real value to your users. I then showed you that even though out of the box we had galleries and forms that were pre-created for us, we could go on and build our own galleries. And then as well as building the galleries, we were able to build forms of our own as well. We then looked at how we could actually shortcut this gallery and form building process. I'm not necessarily sure I would always do it, but at least I showed you that we were able to copy screens and essentially all of the objects in those screens so that we could make use of them again and have a slightly more consistent view for our apps. We then published the app to our channel within our team and saw that was actually quite a straightforward process. And then finally, we built an email notification within our app. So overall, it's actually quite a neat solution. I think that the fact that it's actually all self-contained within Teams, and you all get all of this as part of your Office 365 license, is really tremendously valuable. And I hope that you see within what we've done here the possibility for you to tweak this and make this match your own business processes in the future. If you have any comments on the lessons that you've seen, please let me know within the lessons. That'd be extremely helpful. And I'll hopefully see you again in another lesson.